Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Lorraine Driscoll, founder of Building Better Brains. And what I want to talk about today is what do you do when you either find out that your child maybe has an official diagnosis, maybe you've had a psychoed evaluation, or maybe you aren't interested. I work with a lot of parents who are like, I'm not interested in a diagnosis. I want to go deeper than that. But I don't know how to talk to my child about their difficulty. And this can be really hard whenever you yourself as a parent are struggling with the questions, the confusion, the overwhelm. And this isn't just emotional for your child. This is obviously for a lot of parents a really emotional thing that's really challenging to deal with and so forth in a process. And you want so much to be able to help your child and give them the right answers and make them feel better and have hope and so forth. But as a parent, a lot of the parents I work with when they're first going through this, they're confused, they're feeling overwhelmed, they don't know how to help their child. And they want to reassure their child and tell them everything's going to be okay. And then, there are those, like a lot of parents say, I admit, part of me wonders, is everything going to be okay? Um, and I'm here to say, with everything we know about neuroplasticity, yes, everything can definitely be okay. So the first thing I want to address, because this comes up a lot as well, is what to do if your child has multiple diagnoses, because multiple diagnoses can feel very overwhelming. It can feel like life is out to get you, like you've been hit or your child's been hit by lightning several times. It just can be really, really discouraging. And the first thing I want to say is that multiple diagnoses are actually the norm, not the exception. So if you find out your child has ADHD, and dyslexia, or ASD and ODD and ADHD or whatever, that is actually the norm, not the exception. So don't see it as life is out to get you, and understand and be sure to explain this to your child. If you are going to tell them that they do have these diagnoses, that these diagnoses are really about the ways that the signs that are appearing on the external. So in terms of, it's like a cluster of symptoms that gives us that diagnosis, right? So if your child is impulsive and can't sit still and is easily distracted and has high energy and has trouble following instructions, chances are they're going to be diagnosed with ADHD. And if they are aggressive and violent or defiant, they're probably going to also have a diagnosis of ODD. If they happen to have a hard time reading, throw that in, and they're going to have three diagnoses, maybe dyslexia or some other type of reading disorder. And so those are symptoms, right? Those diagnoses are based on symptoms of how it's showing up and causing breakdown in your child's life in areas that, isn't affecting other kids, but it is not actually telling us what is causing this and the real cause in terms of what is weak and balanced or underdeveloped in the brain. And so this is why I really I think it's really important that we talk to kids in terms of what we're looking at in terms of correcting and helping them to understand that things are weak and imbalanced, as opposed to saying an outright diagnosis. That's my personal opinion. Sometimes it helps kids to hear the diagnosis because then they're like, it makes sense to them, and somehow that's just helpful. But just keep in mind, diagnoses, bottom line is, do not tell you what is going on in the brain. And I can't tell you what to do and what to tell your child in terms of, do I tell my child I have ADHD, or is that going to be something that's going to be a self-fulfilling prophecy? I will say, as a former teacher, I saw that a lot where it was a self-fulfilling prophecy. Sometimes, a lot of the times, these kids think they're defective. They take these titles to heart, especially when the titles, they're not nice titles, right? Like learning disability, oppositional defiance disorder, right? It's all these D's, disorders and disabilities, and they feel defective. So you really want to consider how your child will probably be in terms of how that's going to be received, how they're going to respond to that. I will tell you what I find to be more productive. I find it more productive to not focus on the labels when we're talking to kids. I never told my daughter that she had any labels or suspected labels or anything of that sort. I think it's more productive to, number one, tell your child that they are uniquely wired, because that is 100% true. They are 100% uniquely wired. And that is why they have the incredible genius and gifts that they do. We all know that kids who struggle, kids who don't, all people have incredible gifts and areas of genius because certain part of their brain is highly developed or even overdeveloped. And that will help them to understand that they are unique and not broken. And number two, for them to understand that because of these zones of genius, and this results in or occurs because there is areas of overdevelopment in their brain. And so certain areas of the brain are going to be weaker when certain areas are overdeveloped, because chances are the overdeveloped side is compensating and doing jobs that it's really not supposed to be doing. And so that's what I tell clients or kids when I work with them. What we need to do is we need to exercise these areas that are weak in order to balance things out. They're not going to lose their gifts. It's just going to make it easier to for them to function. It's going to make it easier for them to live with the things that they struggle with on a daily basis. That's not going to be a struggle anymore, but they're not going to lose their gifts. That's not going away anytime soon. That area of the brain is already developed. So I'm really curious, let me know, how did you talk to your child about, their learning difficulties, their behavioral difficulties? How, did you tell them they have a diagnosis? How did you explain it to them? I know some parents, they're like, no, I'm not telling them. How is it received, and so forth? And, how did it play out? So let me know in the comments below what you did, and maybe if this resonates. And to me, this feels a lot better to just focus on how we're uniquely wired and how we have these areas of strength and areas of weakness. And if you would like to learn more about my program, it's a 6-month program where we work through all these layers, the biology of learning through nutrition, deficiencies, addressing food sensitivities, gut healing, all that type of stuff, and then getting into actual brain screenings to determine what areas of the brain are weak and underdeveloped. So then we can exercise them with different cognitive exercises as well as different technologies that help to optimize brain function. So let me know if you'd like to book a free clarity call. You can DM me or just put a comment in the comment box below and I will respond. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.